Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Turn off the light.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Brother Edward, how are you?
Oh, man, I tell you, I'm flooded. All right. I'm flooded.
Yes.
And we're going to get right into it today. Good evening to our readers and especially our guests. Today, our viewers, you're going to get a first hand of some things, and we call them a tragedy. Okay, that's been happening in our none other than Bucksport over the past week or so as a result of the inclement weather. I'll call it that for right now. The next, pretty soon we're going to say just flooding, plain flooding. Okay, so I'm your host Ed McQueen, and of course the co-host Miss April G. I'll tell you why I'm saying April G. later on. That's our guess. But anyway, we're going to talk about a crucial topic tonight, which was brought on by tragedy, obviously, that just happened here. Like I said, a few days ago. A few days ago, we had some flooding in Bucksport that was it just probably unheard of. And after you've witnessed some of the people who can tell us about it, who were firsthand today, and some strategies of what they think the authorities or the people who know what to do, what they should be doing. So, April, we have our guest today, when they're going to talk about that, and maybe they can issue some not directives, but some strong suggestions to our local authorities who have some experience or what they can do something about it. Okay, so tonight, April, let's we want to tell them about our guest.
Right, and we also want to remind our viewers to that if you want to engage in the conversation, you can always post your questions in the thread on YouTube or on our Whittemore Community Magazine page. Also, through our Facebook pages that are actually broadcasting this. So please make sure you post your questions or even, words of encouragement. We have another guest who will be joining us as well along with Kevin Mishoe of the Association for the Betterment of Bucksport, and also April Thomas of Horry County Rising. So let's bring those guests on now. How are you this evening?
Doing great, April. Thanks for having us tonight. Appreciate it. Mr. McQueen, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I just want to start out saying how sorry we are for all the affected families. The last few days have been absolutely catastrophic for so many families. So we're thinking of you. We're with you. We care. And we're just wanted to let you know how important this issue is for all of us. So thank you for hosting to give everybody a chance to come together and have a conversation. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, we decided to take a little bit different approach to this conversation by making sure that, we're talking from the standpoint of the residents who were impacted and who are currently impacted, but also from the standpoint of the people who are pretty much in the trenches trying to make sure that there's an awareness of the issues and the problems, especially with flood mitigation and just making everyone aware of what has happened even since the last flood, but also, what still is left to be done. And I think that it's important for us to have this conversation. And of course, we're just everyday people. And when I say that, sometimes we can have, other types of representatives in a forum like this. And yet, we're kind of hearing what they're talking about from the standpoint of legislation and all this other stuff. But we really want to concentrate today on making sure that everyone understands what it means to be impacted by flooding and what the residents of Horry County are experiencing as we speak. We'll have some photos, we'll have a couple of videos, and we're just going kind of talk through, what is happening, and to try to even answer the question as to why it's still happening. I mean, I think that's the question on everyone's minds. These types of things can't be alleviated overnight. But how long has it been since the last major flood?
Depending on where you are in the county, there's a lot of individuals along the Intercoastal Waterway in Socastee that recently flooded in June. Also, folks along the Waccamaw River that were actually paddling to the polls to cast their votes on election day because they were.
Oh, wow.
So, it really depends on the event, obviously, and just how much rain we've had in the watershed. So, but yeah, it's happening, both becoming more intense and more frequent.
And, as people are trying to, unpack what's happening with the land around us, I mean, even from the standpoint of areas that aren't flooded, so to say, in terms of how other areas like Bucksport are flooded, I think that we're even seeing some of the effects of, a lack of drainage and other things that are contributing to a lot of these problems. April, you're doing some amazing work with Horry County Rising, and again, Kevin with the Association of Bucksport to create awareness. April, your piece is I don't even know how you do it, but your piece is all about making sure that you're present when meetings are happening and the discussions are taking place about these types of issues. And your group, which is on Facebook, and I actually encourage people to join the group if you want to know what's going on in Horry County as far as anything that has to do with our issues concerning things like flooding. April is the mastermind behind that group, and she is the communicator and connector of when it comes to that information. And so the work that you're doing gives you a really different lens when it comes down to what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and what you know about these problems. So as you think about where we were a couple of years ago and where we are now, what is your general feeling about what is happening to create a solution for the flooding issue?
Well, first of all, Horry County Rising has sort of two paths, right? One path is to prevent the catastrophic damages. So that means not, supporting projects that are going to increase flood risk for any future families that come and invest in Horry County. And then the second path is working with affected families and affected communities that are actually experiencing these events. This can be anywhere on a scale and a spectrum. So some families might only have flooding in their yards and it's damaging their landscaping, to flooding in their streets and cutting off access so they're not able to get around, to flooding streets that they use to get to school or get to work. And that's more to nuisance flooding, to, having floodwaters actually in their homes, causing catastrophic damages and jeopardizing a family's financial viability. So we try to really meet families with where they're at. And I can tell you that very little has been done since the major flood that we had, the historical flood in 2018, which was caused by Hurricane Florence. Many of these families have repeatedly flooded since 2018. Now, Congress appropriated $150 million in April of 2018 to the most impacted, most distressed communities. That money has yet to get into those communities. So since that time, we've had several families that have flooded. And so what we're trying to do is really show how flawed the system is and the need to really overhaul how we manage recovery. And so that's going to require both local, state, and federal partnerships because they control the purse. And the solutions are all about money. So we need to make sure that whatever the solutions are, that they're community driven, that they're driven by the affected families. Some solutions work in other communities that may not work in a different community. Some individuals want elevation. Some individuals want buyouts and just to be whole, to be able to walk away. So it's really important that the community drives the solutions. And that's one of the things that we try to work really hard to do, because our local municipality is not set up to be able to do that. And that was a real need for the community. So that's where we step in. So one of the things that we work really hard in Horry County Rising is making sure that constituents reach out to their elected and appointed officials and let them know what's going on. I can't even tell you how often I get comments on Facebook, and I really wish those comments were not in my group, but text messages to their representatives. Because the reality is that we're losing precious time. We're not able to mitigate this housing crisis fast enough because of the intensity and the frequency of the flooding. So we can't mitigate the flooding and we can't adapt to the flooding because we're constantly in crisis mode. So that's
Right.
my message to the community. Many people compare Florence as what we need to prepare for. But quite frankly, we got very fortunate in Hurricane Florence. Very fortunate. And that was catastrophic. If you think about how high our waters are right now, and we were to get anywhere between 4 to 5 inches of rain on top of that, we would be looking at another catastrophic event. So this recent event closed 100 local Horry County roads. So it affects everybody. And what we really need from the community is for people that don't have floodwaters in their houses to care about these issues, because it's a small amount of people that are affected that are continuing to make those calls. But the rest of the community doesn't have our backs. So we need the rest of our county to come together and have our backs and start making calls. That's what we need.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brother Edward.
Yeah, I was about to ask, what you just expressed difficulty of getting the rest of the county, so to speak. But what about the rest of the counties, the authorities, subject of the county? The people from the different offices who can give direction, or who has the authority to supply funding or contribute resources to deal with the issue that you're just bringing up.
My experience has been, and I work very closely with the staff from all the different departments. My experience has been that the county is doing all they can with the resources that they have. They're aggressively going after grant funding. They're trying to secure, additional funds. The stormwater staff is doing the best they can. But quite frankly, they don't have the resources they need to be able to properly respond. This recent flood event was not a declaration. There is no federal or state assistance. The local municipality is solely responsible for responding to the human suffering and the catastrophic damages. We're not equipped to do that, but we have all these impacts. So my concern is that, we're building in these high-risk flood zones or in these areas, but we're not equipped to respond to the type of flooding that we're all experiencing. So, I do think that the county is doing the best they can. What I hear from them is that they're behind work orders. The stormwater department's behind work orders about 3 years. They need over $5 million worth of enhancements. They have a capital improvements project list. It's like 2 pages long. We need money. We can't do this on our own. We need the state and we need the federal government to do some cost shares here, and so that's my point is we can't rely on Horry County to manage this crisis on its own.
April, when you say the local entities of Horry County, what exactly do you mean? I think a lot of people will tend to lump that into, one definition and not really understand who is specifically responsible for the mitigation of this problem. So when you say the entities, who are the local entities who you're saying, don't have the resources to do this?
The stormwater department is one that I think is a priority for us. We want to do everything we can to get them the funding that they need to be able to maintain our current stormwater infrastructure, to get the easements they need to be able to get in there and do the maintenance that they need to do, to get them the funding and the equipment and the personnel to do what they need to do. And they need funding. We need state and federal money to be able to fund all of the needs in our capital improvements plan, to be able to enhance our stormwater infrastructure. That means doing restoration projects along our canals and our streams. It means widening the floodplain, getting in there and doing wetland runs, addressing the beavers. I've got beavers in my swamp back here that's holding back 4 feet of water. So it's a long list, and we just don't have the resources. They're doing the best they can, and they come forward in front of the Infrastructure Regulation Committee every month, showing us all of the projects that they're doing. But they just can't keep up. And on top of that, they're adding more and more drainage ditches to their list every single month for new construction and new developments. Not only that, but they're having to inspect all of those new developments to ensure that they follow our regulations. Not only that, they have to keep up with all the regulatory changes and try to improve and enhance our laws to avoid future loss. They're being asked to do too much with too little. We've been pushing for impact fees on all new residential developments. 70% of the voters in Horry County support that, yet this council keeps kicking it down the road. This last year, they've used the COVID pandemic as a reason to not do impact fees. Yet, if you look at the construction industry, they haven't been impacted by the pandemic at all. They make all kinds of money off of building permits and issuing occupancies and all this other stuff. On Highway 90, if we build out everything that's been approved, we're going to be over capacity. Well, Highway 90 is cut off by floodwaters in 2 locations. We can't keep going down this road. We have to do things to increase the revenues, to get more money in our funds, to be able to do what we need to do, to save our properties and protect our current investments.
Why do you think the state and federal government have been slow to move?
Again, the pandemic has had a lot to do with, why nothing's really happened in the last 10 to 11 months. Senator Goldfinch has been working on a resiliency fund that would help fund the cost share to do buyouts. He was hoping to put $50 million towards that, but he's just as frustrated as we are because it's, not everybody cares about these issues as much as we do. Not everybody floods. Not every county in South Carolina floods. But we have statewide almost $2 billion in unmet housing needs. This is from the flood in 2015, Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Florence, and then this just rainfall flooding. So the reality is that we need other elected officials that aren't flooding to care and support the officials that are pushing for these issues. But even with that bill, there's challenges there because it's a loan. Every administrator, county administrator I talk to pretty much tells me they're not going to take out a loan to buy out families to get them out of harm's way. So there's even flaws with that bill.
Right.
I can't answer why the state isn't doing more to protect us against flooding. They put together a task force. They came and cleaned up debris. They helped clean out some stormwater areas. They're planting some trees this spring. I don't know. That's not enough.
So, Kevin, this is a lot to unpack, and in a little town like Bucksport, it's a lot to deal with over and over again. So, give us your perspective. What are you seeing through your lens?
Well, first of all, let me commend April. She's juggling a lot of balls, and
really is.
And for us, we are a symptom of the lack of response. and April, I kind of compare it to a battering situation. When you're in an abusive relationship, you know, it's hard for those that you count on for help to tell you, well, you know, we don't have the money. You know, those people upstairs in the federal and the state area, they're just not doing what they should be doing. You know, your situation feels dire and you want solutions. You know, like April has indicated, there are families here in Bucksport that still haven't recovered from Matthew. And, you know, and there are other mitigating situations such as heirs property. You know, FEMA does not respond or give assistance if you don't have clear titles to property. And unfortunately, in our community, there's a lot of families that fell into that category. So now you're adding insult to injury. Continuous flooding. You're getting beaten over and over again in this battered relationship between us and nature. And you're constantly being told by the powers that be that just put a unmanned ship on Mars that they can't find the money to help poor communities. You know, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that, you know, for folks, I hear a lot of comments like, oh, you know, you want socialism, you want the government to bail you out, you want a handout. Let's be really clear about that issue. The government approved these projects. The government approved putting houses in these areas. The federal government created the National Flood Insurance Program to allow us to build in flood zones. The government does the FEMA maps to determine where flood risk is. Every decision the government makes is based off of those FEMA maps. We have families that have flooded 9 times. We have spent, the federal taxpayers that pay federal taxes have spent $1.5 billion on a house in Sockasty since the 90s, and it is only assessed at $100,000. That's what your taxpayers' money is going to. Why are we rebuilding these homes? Why are we allowing these humans to suffer? That's what your taxpayers' money is going to. So this is not a handout. The government approved these buildings. They certified them. They gave them occupancy permits. They built them to the regulations at the time. They were not considered in a flood zone. They were not required to carry flood insurance. And the taxpayers have spent $1.5 million to rebuild that home 9 times. How much sense does this make?
And let me add this as well, April. You know, each one of these areas, Bucksport stands in solidarity with all the areas that are flooding. It's like April said, you know, this is something that is affecting, you know, not just Bucksport, but a great deal of our county. But the thing with that is that we have asked the county to take a look at our area. Is it compatible? Is the terrain I guess the same as maybe Saugastee and Conway, and you know, we have found that drainage has been a major issue in Bucksport for a long time. We've taken the liberty to actually get out there and walk the terrain, you know, follow each ditch to its end point, from its start point to its end point, and brought this information to the county. Now there is out of 100% of the drainage that is in Bucksport, less than 10% of it actually goes to any outsource out of the community. So there we go. There we are. I look at it as a circulatory system. You got your capillaries and your veins and your arteries, and everything should be connected so that it flow properly. And Bucksport has been an area that this has been neglected for over 40 years. We have not had adequate drainage in this community for 40 years. So after having many meetings with our county, they came out along with DOT. There's two roads in Bucksport, which is Bucksport Road and Railroad, that is maintained by DOT. The rest are maintained by the county. We met with both entities and were told that they were going to clean the ditches and cut paths that would take this water to the marsh areas. Attempt one, it didn't happen. We then went back to our county through our county council and said, listen, this did not work. So they said, well, the reason it didn't is because we needed easements. And if you get us those easements, we'll get those ditches to the areas that would lead water out of the community. Because, we know that this is not going to be the end all for a major flood. But if proper drainage is the beginning of mitigation, I feel in a flood situation. Round two, they went back. We worked diligently to get those easements, 30 of them. The Association of Betterment of Bucksport, we contacted people out of state. They were more than happy to sign these easements and try to get us some relief. Well, guess what? Nothing changed. They went into the woods, they cut drainage to nowhere, and told us and made us feel that the work was done. So, I understand that finances is an issue. You really can't do a lot without it. But, we're not getting the communication. We feel a little bit like we're neglected here. And this is what has frustrated the community of Bucksport. This is what has made people fed up with government. We try to do things in a rational, calm manner. I think if you've seen some of the news broadcasts over the past week, there's residents that's saying, please help us. They're begging with no solution. Nobody's coming out and telling us, here's what we're trying. Here's what we think would work. So it's led us to, we're even seeking right now. We've seen some communities that were faced with similar flooding issues. We've reached out to try to get independent studies, that sort of thing. Anything that we can do to help mitigate our situation. But, good communication really is helpful in situations like this. We've not heard from our officials since the last flood. This is how it works. We have all these meetings initially after a flood event. Everybody's coming out. They're telling you, let's talk about a solution. You have that conversation, and then they go away till you're flooded again. That's frustrating.
Kevin, I pulled up some photos, Kevin, that you provided, and can you tell the audience what they're looking at here? There's several photos here that kind of depict what you're talking about.
Okay, if you look at the one I think there in the upper right corner there, this is our first flood area. This is Martin Luther. Whenever we see the water begin to rise on Martin Luther, we know what's coming for the rest of us. It always starts there, and it always floods there. So when we were, discussing, the mine, the canary in the mine shaft, Martin Luther is it. And we've asked that, there's so many routes to take water out on the backside of Martin Luther. Since 2016, we've been asking our county officials to at least make an attempt to correct the drainage problem. As you can see, to date is 2021, and we're still having that problem. The others in the upper left, these are aerial shots of that same area. The bottom is the backside of some of the mobile homes that are right there on Martin Luther. And then we have that middle one that's at the lower right-hand corner. These are examples of ditches that go nowhere. They actually fill up only when it floods. If we have a rainstorm, if we have a flood event, these ditches take water absolutely nowhere.
Right. Where do you think that they don't move it off? Yeah, where do you think that they can take them, Kevin? Has anyone investigated that? Can they tell you? By the way, that bottom photo, I put some video of that on an elevation perspective. On the bottom left, with that yard, with the a small house situated on it. I can show it to you later on. If you want to see it now, I can do that. But it shows an elevation of how much the flood is impacted. Okay. Would you like to see it?
Yes, please. I'm trying to understand the question. You were breaking up there just a little bit.
Yeah, you're breaking up back and yeah, you're kind of back and forth, Brother Edward.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay. Let me see. All right. Let's see if that's any better.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get to this video. And there's no such thing.
Okay. There's let me see if what you attempted to add to the stream will work from my end. Hold on a sec. And I don't know which one you want me to show. The one
the second one. The second one, yeah.
Which is the second one?
It's visible to you, right? The second one.
Right. I can see the church, and I can see what.
The one with the small cabin on it, the small house, a small.
Okay. All right. Let's.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
That's the yard. The bottom left of the photos that Kevin just showed up.
Right. Okay. Again, that's part of the aerial shot for Martin Luther. Just to the right, and you can see that home has been elevated. And you would think that that family would kind of talk over the sound of the.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a home right at the mouth of Martin Luther, and as we have said, even though some of the homes have been elevated, when the flood waters rise, they no longer have access. Those people was just as much displaced as the people who had water coming in their homes. So and what we're suggesting to the county, April gave some numbers of the kind of money that has been spent to pay for a home over and over again. We feel that money could be much better put to use if we created proper drainage in this community. Like she said, it's a waste, and we're getting more solicitation for buyouts. And maybe April can understand this is not coming from the county. These are actually private investors. We've looked into, we've collected some of the letters and trace addresses back. And now you explain to me why a private investor whose entire job is to do the background, do the demographics, to find out what kind of zone that they're investing in, would want to buy the homes of people in a flood zone. So these are the kind of, questions that create the conspiracy theories, but,
Absolutely.
The community
Absolutely.
come up with. You know,
Yeah,
so
because yeah, you're right.
so we have that issue as well. And then
Mhm.
when you look less than a half mile behind Bucksport to you know, Grand Strand Water and Sewer is there, and they're closest to the river, and the property does not flood at all. But somehow it gets around that road and comes over to Bucksport. Now, listen, I'm not you know, an advocate of conspiracy theories. I'm just saying when the people look at things like this and they can't explain it, and then you have a government that does not speak to you for years at a time until the next event, then you open yourselves up for the hostility and the conspiracy theories that come with that.
Mhm.
That's a question about partnerships. The who's responsible for the new development in the back on the back road? That's either just been done and leased down to the port or the wharf or whatever. And are they playing a role in helping to get the word out in partnership with you guys about doing something about the flooding, because they are impacted also, probably more so, right? Because they're down at the end of the port.
No, they
not
have not
impacted?
been impacted at all in any of these floodings. And to answer your first question, it is a cooperation between Horry County, Grand Strand Water and Sewer, Santee Cooper, and there was one other agency that I can't remember at this point, but those are the entities that are involved in the construction of the new marine industrial park.
Well, those kind of things, like you just said earlier, generate conspiracy theories, because some people are not just benefiting from that, but they're not being touched by it. Yet they continue to build on surrounding areas that are being flooded, and we can't get proper addressing from the local authorities who are responsible for addressing the flooding issue there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
So,
I think that. Go ahead, Brother Edward. And after that, we'll take a little break.
Yeah, I just want to commend the betterment for the betterment of Bucksport. You guys, I've known you've been in existence for a while. We've run a number of pages for you in our magazine, so just keep up the good work, and Godspeed with what the effort that you all are doing. I know you're not just the only member there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there are a number of you, which I don't know by hand right now, but we've gone over a few things there, and you're doing a tremendous job. I think you'd be a good lobbying.
All right, we're going to take a little break because this has been a lot to unpack in the past 30 or 40 minutes, and we'll come right back with more of this conversation. We also are going to bring in our another guest who will speak personally about her personal experience, her family's personal experience, and will tell us what's going on and how they've been impacted. So we'll be right back.
If you want to support Black-owned and operated businesses in the Grand Strand area and beyond, check out thenetworkconnects.com for a complete list of establishments in our local area. Our network connects Black businesses to community for a wide range of services, products, organizations, and resources that are viable in the African American community. You'll find a wide range of products and services that'll fit your needs, along with information about events and happenings around the local communities. Check out thenetworkconnects.com, connecting Black businesses to community. Thenetworkconnects.com.
Hey, and we're back. So, Brother Edward, do you want to give a shout out to your advertisers and sponsors in the World Community Magazine?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
No, you go ahead. You want me to run their commercial? You want to give us a shout out?
Well, yeah, well, I can't do it from my end. I don't have my
You want me to run the
full.
commercial?
Yeah, just run the commercial, please.
All right. We'll make it happen.
So you're the host today.
I know, but I still have to get my direction from you. Some days you want to run the commercial, some days you want to give a shout out. So I'm going to do whatever you say.
Yeah, okay.
That works for us. All right, we got a couple of more commercials, and we'll be right back. Having problems with your vehicle? For quick, prompt, and courteous service, call Snag and Drag Towing. Gregory Graham will make sure that you're taken care of right away. 843-997-0751. That's Snag and Drag Towing Service at 843-997-0751. If you're looking for flowers for any occasion, the Daisy Fair Flowers is here to help you. They offer an enormous selection of flowers, gift baskets, and live plants for delivery in Conway, South Carolina. Serving Conway since 1980, the Daisy Fair Flowers, 1400 4th Avenue in Conway, or call 843-248-7222. You may also visit the web at thedaisyfairflowers.com. Looking for a full-service funeral home with a broad array of services? Look no further than McKeever Funeral Home at 1408 Race Path Avenue in Conway, South Carolina. They offer a wide variety of services, including traditional funerals, memorial services, and graveside ceremonies. You can reach them anytime, day or night, at 843-248-2706. That's 843-248-2706. McKeever Funeral Home in Conway, South Carolina. George L. Williams Jr. is CEO and licensed funeral director. Support the party that supports you. Vote for your own interests and those of your community. The choice is clear. Horry County Democratic Party. Take a stand. Register to vote 2020. This advertisement is paid for by the Horry County Democratic Party. All right, we're back, and I just want to remind everyone that you can visit www.wcmagazine.net for the latest issue of the magazine, and also more information about our sponsors. And there were, that was just one of the commercials that we run during the segment. Also, if you want more information about the organizations that are chaired, led, or coordinated by our special guest tonight, for example, you can search Facebook for the Association for the Betterment of Bucksport to get the latest information on flooding in the Bucksport community. And of course, Horry County Rising, you can join that page to get information about flooding and everything that's happening with all of the initiatives that April's working on, and entities around the area to try and mitigate this particular issue. I also want to make sure that we acknowledge some of the comments that have come in, and most of them are kind of falling in line with what we've been talking about this evening. And it looks like what we're doing is educating the public for sure on what is actually happening and what's not. There is a question from Cheryl Moore Adamson. Has Grand Strand Water and Sewer played a role, and do they have a role in this? Can either one of you answer that question?
I mean, I think our wastewater facilities, our treatment facilities, are also having a hard time mitigating this issue. But they're also accepting a lot of money with the new development, right? So I think this is close to what the boom was back in, 2009, the housing boom, or maybe 6. So they're having a hard time. We've had some issues where we've had our wastewater or infrastructure inundated with flooding. So they are too another entity that is can apply for funding to help with mitigating some of that. That's the only role that I can really speak to. I can't speak to different projects that they may be pursuing or possible future development. But I am very familiar that both the city of Conway and Horry County has been trying, and Grand Strand Water and Sewer and other entities that provide utilities are trying to secure grants to help mitigate some of the pollution and the inundation.
Kevin, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I'm not going to say anything derogatory if I haven't approached Grand Strand. I'm going to be honest with you. As a committee, that is something that is and should be on our agenda, and we would hope that we're going to be hosting a couple of meetings here, April, in the near future. One is on March 9th, which would involve the community and the development of our community plan, because we're definitely one of the first things we have to do is we have to have a vision for Bucksport, and then we have to make that vision very plain and become persistent and consistent with that. So we're going to be inviting entities such as Grand Strand Water and Sewer, give them an opportunity, to live up to their mission statement, which is that they do invest in the communities in which they build facilities. So we're looking forward to maybe a future relationship with them.
Right, bring them to the table for that conversation. I'm going to run another comment, and then I'm going to show one of the videos that Kevin provided, and we'll have Emily Austin Wood to come on and talk to us about her family situation in the Bucksport area. So Cedric Blaine Spain writes, and thank you for watching, everyone, and for everyone who's commented. Cedric writes, our residents of Bucksport are representative being vigilant and assuring that Bucksport residents and other underserved and poor communities are getting equity when it comes to the dissemination of funds for flooding, flood mitigation, and resilience programs. So I know that some of that has been answered in part, but how involved are the residents? And both of you could possibly answer this when it comes down to meetings and being, as Cedric says, vigilant about contacting representatives to see about getting what's equitable.
Well, to your point, to Cedric's point, one thing that I want to say that I think is kind of amazing is we had a professor who I interviewed just a couple of weeks ago before this event, who created the vulnerability index. And that index does look at inequalities. And that was a framework that she built under Governor Nikki Haley. Because Nikki Haley said, I want to make sure that when we receive these funds, that's non-political, that it goes to the most distressed, most impacted, underserved communities. So the professor did create a vulnerability index. And if anybody is interested in seeing that, you can look at it by county. And that is how we determine how, when Congress allocated that $150 million in funds, how that money is spent, making sure that the most distressed, most impacted, most vulnerable communities receive those funds first. My point is still not enough money. If you look at every single disaster, the unmet housing need keeps growing and growing and growing. We don't get enough money. So the needs outweigh at this point, what we have as far as resources, and we have such limited resources. So I wanted to address that to make sure. And I do think that the point about it not being community driven was part of the reason why Horry County Rising was established. We provide a watchdog service. And so we watch these issues or anything that we think is going to increase flood risk. We provide the information to the community of what's on council's agenda, what's on planning commission's agenda. And the reason why we curate it. And the reason why we do it is we're trying to make it as streamless as possible for residents to process the information, receive the information where they are, which is on Facebook, and encourage them and inspire them to come to these meetings. After a flood event, a lot like the politicians are, where they come into our communities and meet with us, that's the same way that the rest of the community is. Our engagement shoots up through the roof every single time we have a flood event. Mm-hmm. But when we're not flooding, the conversation is almost non-existent. And that's why we're there too, because I get up literally and speak and sleep flood. every day.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if we're flooding or not. So I think it's important to have these conversations when we're not in crisis. And in fact, what I say to folks, we see a lot of debate happening in the middle of this crisis. And quite frankly, that is probably the most unhelpful thing to do. Because, and I know because I flooded, the last thing I wanted to hear when I had floodwaters in my house and my kids were crying over the Christmas ornaments that they made me through the years that were lost. Did I want to hear from somebody whether we should do a diversion canal or whether we should dredge the waterway? Like, I didn't need that. What I needed is people to care. I needed people to support me and say, I care. If you need anything, let me know. So the conversation about solutions and what to do and how to take action need to happen when we're not in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in crisis, we need to be there for our neighbors. We need to show that we care. We need to tell them we're here and do all we can to get them through that crisis.
Well, I know that you just focused on a little bit about what needs to be done and stuff like that, but what kind of efforts are there in place that can ensure that the necessary people or the necessary number of people can flood the necessary authorities and flood their offices and especially these council meetings with the issues at Bucksport in a proactive way. Okay, and I'm talking about being very proactive because when it's not flooding and everything looks dandy, that's when we should be down there and flooding them with our issues of what's to come. Okay, and what we've seen already. So history is the best account of of how you can map out things architecturally. So what do you propose to do? I mean, you may have touched base on it before for the last 40 minutes or so, but what exactly? I take that back. Not exactly, but what in general did you propose to do starting from this point on? And what about this broadcast? What do you expect to get out of this broadcast?
Well, I definitely recommend for people to sign our petition. One solution that we found that the whole entire community can support is have a plan, right? A plan, a good flood plan defines what projects we want to do, who's responsible and how much it's going to cost, and a timeline and who we can hold accountable. So sign our petition at horrycountyrising.com and demand a plan. We also encourage folks to share their story, right? Part of what is really important in this whole process is, again, trying to get other people that are not affected to care about this issue. What is really effective about getting people to care about this issue is sharing your story or sharing other victims' stories that you know of. I have a lot of folks that join my group that say, my neighbor is flooding and I want to do something to support them. So I'm here to sign the petition. That's what we need. Talk to your friends, your neighbors, people at church, and explain to them what is going on. And not just in the middle of a flood, but all the time. So demand a plan and then take action. Continuously, consistently contact your representatives. I find that is most effective. Protesting doesn't work. Doing the signs, it doesn't work. Signing a petition where they get 100 petitions that say the same thing from 100 different constituents, it doesn't work. They read the one petition and then they disregard everything you say. So the more you can talk about the personal impacts and the impacts to your community, whether you're inconvenienced because you couldn't get to work, whether you had to reroute your bus route, whether, there's a huge disconnect between what's happening at Myrtle Beach and what's happening in these inland communities, but these inland communities support the tourism economy. We have to get people at Myrtle Beach to care about these issues. We have to get people in the industry to care about these issues. That's developers, that's realtors, that's people that sell insurance. So those are the things that we have to do. We can't pit each other against each other. We have to get them to care about these issues too. So I think the more we can have these conversations, the better. And the more we can try to reach out to people that aren't necessarily as intimately affected to care. Again, it's a small number of people compared to the general population countywide. Hopefully, Edward, sir, that I answered your question.
April, I put up the community call to action that we discussed, which basically is to contact your state and county representatives and to ask them to respond to even the housing crisis that's caused by the flooding and also these other issues that we've talked about. So you can make note of the names and phone numbers of these representatives. Of course, this broadcast will be available for playback and for sharing. You can go to our YouTube page and also access it on any of our Facebook pages. But we wanted to share that information, and also we were provided with some assistance or guidance for Bucksport area residents, some information if you'd like to, if you need some assistance or whatever. Kevin has also provided information. April gave us information on the community call to action. And I will make sure that this information is posted in the network and other groups, but again, it's available for playback. So make sure you bring people to this broadcast and share a link to this broadcast so that they can get the full scope of what it is that we're talking about today, because this is, it's so critical. And I've had her waiting for a while. I want to bring her on now. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
All right. So yes, I can hear you just fine. So this is Kimberly Alston Wood, and Kimberly, we invited to come be a part of this mainly because of how her family is currently impacted, how they've been impacted in the past, and she's one of those persons that April has, mentioned, who is willing to tell the story as far as how it's affecting her and her family. Particularly, she is a 72-year-old mother who is dealing with, possible property loss and just having to go through this over and over again. So, Kimberly, as you listen to everything, because you were pretty much here for almost the entire broadcast, tell me your first thought. And then let's talk about what you and I kind of went over in the little pre-show discussion that we had.
Hi, everybody. In listening to everything that went on just a few minutes ago, I'm hearing it, and I'm trying to, I guess, get the right words. Nobody understands this unless they are actually the people who are being affected by the water. Like everybody, I know that Bucksport, when the water comes, we are flooded and the road is closed. But is the road really closed when you have people driving up and down? And I see on TV, like certain communities that have police escorts or police kind of blocking these roads off. I'm kind of confused on how the government works with these different places, and some places are protected more, or they're I guess for right words would say they go to those communities first. And our community has been affected for the past 6 years total, like back to back. We've always had a drainage problem, but in having a drainage problem, is the county responsible for digging these ditches, or making sure that these ditches are clean? Are they responsible for like it's a canal ditch in between my mom's house on Martin Luther Drive and in between Denise McCrae's house on Martin Luther Drive? And I know for a fact that nobody has seen that ditch or been to it in probably 20 years. And I believe the last time it was dug out, my dad had somebody, he paid somebody to do it. And so my issue is, in hearing everything that's been said today and all of the concerns and the things that we need to do, And knowing that we have been really working diligently to some of these things that you're saying, as in the Betterment of Bucksport, they've been cleaning these ditches, making sure that our community is clean. But my main issue is who's responsible for actually digging these ditches, and why is it that from the last 6 years we've had this dreadful problem, but we hadn't had this when I lived there for 24 years. My mom is, like she said, my mom is 72 years old. My mom is an elderly person in the community, and most of these people are elderly. So my issue with that is, how do you expect them to start over at 72 years old and they've built their lives there? What's next for? And I understand we need to be diligent in going to these meetings. I agree with you 100% on that. I agree with we need to pull together. I agree with that. But I don't agree with the fact that when I ride through Bucksport Road, or I can't ride through Bucksport Road when the water's across, but I can go on the back road that they just built, and I can ride through there just as smoothly as ever. And it's so immaculate down there. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. The land is built up, and they have a bridge, and they have all these different things. So why is there no water on that road? Why are we still dealing? And we hadn't dealt with it for, like I said, 6 years of this. It's been really, really drastic, where my mom lost her whole house. Like, they had to come in and rebuild it. And also the neighbors. And there's no water on that road. I really have concerns. And I'm not the only one. You can see in these comments that the people that are living on this road, they really don't want to speak, and they really don't have a lot to say. And they're actually speaking on, on the comments, but they don't want to be on camera. But I'm one of these people that enough is enough. I've completely had enough of my mom having to move out of her house, and we have to get hotel rooms on the beach because she can't get in or out, and she's a Parkinson patient that could get sick any minute. So we can't stay in the houses. So I hear what you're saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And let you finish. I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead and finish.
I hear what you're saying, and I hear that you say that we need to do more, and we need to be diligent and going and when it's good, it's good. But it really has not been good. Like, it hasn't been good for 6 years, and I haven't seen a backhoe or a trailer or anything down there digging out no ditches. Like, what are we're fussing about, and we're arguing about, and we're helping people or telling people that we need to do these different things. But when is anybody going to start to do the things that they were supposed to do 7 years ago or 20 years ago? Because that's not being done. Where do we start? What do we do today to get these things in place?
What you just said would be ideal. If you stood up at the county council meeting, if they allow you, and say exactly what you just said for the past 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes. That's, to me, that sounds like the most effective speech I've heard in a long time. We didn't get the opportunity during the broadcast to talk about the back road, which you said has been developed and is running so smoothly. There's a huge, that's just before you get to the newly built bridge, right?
Right.
Okay. So under that bridge is a huge depository where water could go. If they wanted to drain the water from your area. So I think these are questions, and these are some of the concerns that I think should be related to one of the county council meetings. It sounds to me it sounds so effective.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a lot of really good points, Kimberly. Just for clarification, so everybody understands, is the ditches are designed to get the water out. They're really for localized rain. So rain that falls here locally on top of us to get the water away from homes, away from the infrastructure, and into the waterway to be able to drain, and it goes out Winyah Bay. it does very little to mitigate riverine flooding. So you have two issues. You have riverine flooding, so that's when the river gets really high and starts swallowing up everything in its path. But then you also have flash flooding, which is the localized rain, and that's where the ditches don't have the connectivity to get the water out to the waterway. To mitigate the riverine flooding, there's really only a few things you can do. It really depends on, it's a personal decision and a family's decision about what they want to do. Some people choose elevation, some people choose buyouts. There might be a possibility to do an infrastructure project in Bucksport to try to protect Bucksport. So those are the kinds of things that we can do to mitigate the riverine flooding. And then the flash flooding really is the maintenance part that you were just speaking to. A lot of our infrastructure is flooding. If you come to my community, everything around me is flooded right now. This road's closed. This road's closed. There's only one way out of my neighborhood. So a lot of communities across the county are dealing with the exact same thing that's happening at Bucksport Road. So it is a real problem, and we have an infrastructure that's outdated. It wasn't necessarily engineered or designed for the type of rainfall that we're experiencing. So again, intensity and frequency. If we're getting more intense, more frequent rainstorms, and our ground is already saturated and our water table's already high, there's no place for the water to go. Also increasing how much impervious cover we're adding, which means more pavement to accommodate new construction. Technically, they're supposed to capture 20% more water on that new development. But unfortunately, that regulation didn't happen until a couple of years ago. So a lot of the damage is already sort of done. What greatly influences the Waccamaw River and Bucksport community is the Yadkin PD watershed. This is water that's coming from our headwaters and flowing downstream and flooding the Waccamaw River. The PD is at a higher elevation than the Waccamaw, so as soon as the PD converges with the Waccamaw, it backs up the Waccamaw, and then it backs up Intercoastal Waterway. And our river and our waterway stop discharging, and it starts to back up. So that's our problem. So there's very little we can do except give the water more areas to spread out where we want the water. So we can create and widen the floodplain upstream from us, downstream from us. We can create more areas to capture more water to keep it from going into the watershed itself. So that's going to cost, on the scale and scope that we need, that's going to cost a lot of money. So part of what we need the community to be a part of these conversations, and what I was leading to, is a plan, which is what we're demanding. We'll have defined projects, and as a community, we say, this is where we want to protect. These are investments. These are communities that we want to save. We're willing to spend the money to save them. Or a community might say, I don't have an emotional connection to this land. Just get me out of here. I invested in this house. I'm a retired couple. I bought this house 6 years ago. It's flooded 3 times. I just want out. So that's why we need the community to come together, sign the petition, connect with us, come to meetings, tell us what your community needs.
Okay.
Let me say this with all due respect to April. I beg to differ, because here's what we're saying about Bucksport. Every area is different. You have to first investigate the landscape, see what might work in Conway and in Saugastee might not be the problem in Bucksport. And here's why I say that, because what we're almost telling Kimberly is this: if the ditches was working, it wouldn't work. See, we're trying to tell the county, you first haven't even tried. We have a antiquated infrastructure that has been going to nowhere for more than 20 years. Now, when we need it to see if this thing would help our situation, it's not even working. So
Right.
over the past 4 years, 5 years since we've been flooding, I've had 100 people come in our community to tell us why something would not work. Give me one person that'll tell me why it would work. That's the person we want in our community. We don't need any more of the prophets of doom, the naysayers. We want somebody that's going to tell us how it's going to work. First, clean out our ditches. Dig those ditches. You said, listen, we need to move that water from our community to a reserve or a reservoir area. Well, that's what we're saying. We're not even doing that. The water is not flowing through our community at all. Give that a chance first, okay? Now, and as far as giving the kudos to the county, I'm not looking to start a war with the county. I'm just asking you to do your job. That's it.
That's all.
And matter of fact, I'll give you a prime example. 2 days before it actually flooded, I called the county because the one ditch that happens to be on my road, Mishoe Road, that was taking water to the marsh area was clogged up with debris and limbs and everything else on one side. You could tell this water wanted to get to the swamp and it wanted to get there badly. But one side was stocked up. 2 days later, they showed up. Okay? They didn't call me. They went down to a portion of my road about 100 yards down the road, and they took a backhoe and they digged into the ditch. Wasn't even close to the area that we were concerned with, and they loaded up their truck and headed back to Conway. It was my wife and me that got in that ditch with shovels and pitchforks and rakes and dug all of that stuff out of that canal to get it flowing. Not my county. Not the people we're saying, oh, they're having such a hard time. They got a lot to do. So the thing is, we want to see that an effort is being made to address our issues. Black communities have had a history of neglect. Come on, we just went through Flint, Michigan. We know what it's like to see a community, because it's minority and poor, not be addressed with the same resources that neighboring communities are getting. And our folks are fed up with that. We want some change. So, everybody has their way of protest, but let me tell you, marching and protesting, our change was born out of that. And the thing is, if we have to, we'll turn that courthouse into the walls of Jericho, and we'll march every day if we have to. We are fed up. We're fed up.
It's incredible. This is an incredible conversation. I have one more person who's going to be joining me in just a moment. Now, they asked for a link because they want to say something, so I'm going to pull him into the stream. Ronnie, if you can hear me, if you're ready. This is Ronnie Alston. How are you? You're muted. I'll give you a second. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get closer to my router to make sure everything is cool.
Sounds good.
My whole thing is this is the thing that I don't understand. Okay, I'm 30 and I'm about like him. I'm 38 years old. 38 years old. The only thing that used to flood was our road on Martin Luther Drive a long time ago. Right. That is all that used to flood. Now, all of a sudden, we have a brand new substation on 701 from the electric company. You talk about, oh, well, we don't need to make any conspiracies or anything, but let's look at this. Let's throw it all out there and put everything out on the front street. Okay, you got a brand new substation for electricity on 701. You have solar panels on 701. You have them closing off They totally cut Bucksport Road off and curved it to go back towards the ferry, towards the other river. Mm-hmm. And now you have the ferry and you have Bucksport. Everything on this side is flooding, but everything on this side is not flooding. So you say don't make a conspiracy, but what are you trying to do? Why do all of that if it's a flood zone? What they're trying to do, I think, is they're trying to run the people out of the community so that they can have it. It doesn't make sense for, if it's a flood zone and it's not good ground, why would anybody come down there and develop an area that is not good?
That's exactly right.
It's totally BS. And I want to cut through the chase. I got my mother stays there. My father stays there. My sister stays down there. Kim is my family. I have so much family in Bucksport, and everybody is getting told the same thing. Let's look at what's going on. Mm-hmm. Nobody's investing all of this money on building up on the river if the land down there is no good. It doesn't make sense.
I agree.
It don't make it. I mean, come on, you can't take 2 + 2 and get 5. It don't make sense.
That's right.
So there's more to the situation than meets the eye. It's more to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we can talk about how, we need to write these letters and we need to get these people involved. They know. They put y'all on here, and if we can, get somebody they can trust, they'll listen, and maybe they'll sell their property. Who's a private investor who would spend money on bad property? Nobody. A fool. Nobody would buy bad property. So my thing is, you flood the people out, you fix the situation after you flood them out, and then you make it to what you really want it to be, which is connected to Myrtle Beach, so that you can have boats pull up, so you can build your nice big houses down there on the river, because it's surrounded by 2 rivers, and that's what they want to do. So the only way they can get the people out is to make it unlivable flood land, which has never flooded like this in all my days. They did it a long time ago, back in the maybe 70s or 60s or something. It flooded real bad down there. But this rainwater, it's never done this, and it doesn't have anything to do with ditches. I can tell you that. Where are they gonna go? Into the river? The river is what's coming in. And the rivers are getting flooded by either a dam in North Carolina or something else. Where's the water gonna go? If you divert the ditches to the river, where's it gonna go? So let's cut to the chase and find out what the real problem is and what's really going on.
And the frustration level is on 100, and I can understand. I don't even live down there, and I understand. And I can understand why someone like Ronnie and someone like Kimberly would feel that writing letters and making phone calls is just simply not enough. So as a collective, what can the community do? What can the Bucksport community do that's going to get the attention of these officials, and that's going to make movement happen, that's going to move the needle? And I know it's probably all about, doing a little bit of everything, calling till you can't call anymore, writing till you can't write anymore. But at the same time, sometimes people don't move until you're in their face. You know what I mean? So, what can the Bucksport community do? And, to be honest, are you seeing enough of that? That's number one. Number two, I do want to share some comments that are coming in. There is a question from Ms. Kevin Mishoe. She has a question about drainage. How can the drainage give little impact for drainage when the ditches haven't been cleaned out in 20 years? They keep trying to minimize our situation when they haven't cleaned out our ditches. So I think we've addressed that, but it's a question that apparently everyone in Bucksport has. There seems to be even, some thoughts about what this is, and it kind of supports what Ronnie is saying. Cheryl Adamson, she called it environmental racism. That's pretty interesting comment, and it's a comment that you can't overlook. Cedric, he posted, Kim asked a question: how's the new road on the back end of Bucksport closer to the river not flooded? The problem is elected and appointed official staff, boards, and commissions for one. So this isn't a singular thought process. It's not like, Ronnie's frustrated and he's just, saying something that is his own opinion. It sounds like as a collective, the community feels this way. And I think, Kevin tried to just kind of introduce it, because whenever people attach labels to thoughts, sometimes they do define them as conspiracy theories, but it's not logical. What's happening down there really is not logical. So you have to understand how the people feel. Also, April's work in Horry County Rising, she's working in a way to communicate all of the, I guess, the things that are, technical and that are about policy, procedure, and, what the elected officials need to hear, need to do, and all that other good stuff. So she's at a different level of communication than Kevin is in the association that he works for and with in Bucksport, but they're all there for the common good. They're working together. So, to Ronnie's point, what else can be done? I mean, if all these people are screaming, what else can be done to make sure that Bucksport gets the attention that it needs? Because another flooding event, yeah, you're right. It's wiping out a segment of the population and not touching another. That makes no sense. And then also, how many times does a 72-year-old resident have to go through this before they can't go through it anymore? How many times do you have to question it and call it what it is before someone says, aha, you're right, there's something that we can do, and then it's done? So, Ms. Mishoe says, pack every single county council meeting. And even Larry White said that a little earlier. If I can find his comment. And, I don't, want anyone to take it personally, but it is what it is. Come to meetings often, just not when you are affected personally. So, yeah, we packed the house in county council. Then what happens? Right. Then what happens? And is it that we stay on top of them for the accountability piece? Yes.
Absolutely.
We have to stay on top of that. And it might take more than just a couple of concerned citizens out of Bucksport to do that. It's going to take the collective to make that happen. And I think that we're all on this platform trying to be advocates for the very same thing. And I'm glad Ronnie brought a different level of realness than Kimberly, but they're saying the same thing. Okay, Kimberly, you want to say something?
I do. One thing that April said that kind of concerns me also is when you say that it was a buyout plan in your community, or and that's fine, but the other part of that is nobody tried to buy us out, and not that we're gonna sell, because nobody is going anywhere. If we have, we did exactly what they told us. They told us to build the houses up, and so then you build them up. Here it is, you built your house up and you still can't get in or out Bucksport, or you can't get in or out that one particular lane. And here it is also that if your community, if they offered you buyouts, or if they offered buyouts there, I automatically assume that why didn't they come to Bucksport and offer anybody a buyout? Nobody has ever said anything to Bucksport about buyouts in my lane. Because, well, first of all, we're not moving. That's the one thing. And I know that my people have said that. But the other part of it is, are we not good enough for a buyout? Are we not, is Bucksport not worthy enough for a buyout? Or do you just continue to flood the water, bring the waters, and we continue to just build up and build up? Do we need to build in the sky? What are we doing? We're doing what they tell us to do. And then we turn right back around and the same issues happen. And then your community may be protected by it. But everybody that went into the community this week And I saw cars. I went down there on this weekend and I saw cars flowing through the water like the water wasn't even really there. And it wasn't people that lived in the community. It was people trying to get to the marina. And I'm offended by that for one thing. But the other part of it is, where was the police that should have been at the end of the road stopping these people from going through there? Because every time they go through the water, my mother's house is affected by each little wave that goes because hers is the lowest on that particular street. And so my issue with the whole particular thing is this. We're tired of the water. I know we can write letters. I've spoken to the governor. I've spoken to people at the last flood. But why are we still flooding? What do we do from this point today to get to the next level? We don't want to be I mean, I can come to every meeting, but that would be me driving from Columbia to get to these meetings. Now, granted, I will do it and it's not a problem for me. But for Ronnie, he's coming from Atlanta. And we're coming in the place of our parents who have lived there all their lives. And they are completely fed up. But we are the ones that are fighting for them because that's been where we have lived all our lives. And for the last 6 years, and I keep saying this, we had problems for 6 years. Before this, I lived there for 24 years. And never did we have to move out our homes and go stay in hotels. My mama was in a hotel for a year before her house was rebuilt the last time. And FEMA didn't rebuild her house. People came into the community, different churches and different organizations came in to rebuild her house. That's who rebuilt it. FEMA didn't do nothing. And to hear that the news the other day, when I was down there and the news the first thing the county says when they get up on the news is, this is an isolated situation and we're not going to be using FEMA. Nobody asked for FEMA. We asked that you stop the water from coming into the community like it was 25 years ago. That's all we asking. We just need the water to cease. I mean, it may not all cease, but then at the same time, why is it so much all of a sudden? That back road, you're not going to tell me that it's not supposed to have water on it. It came through the river. Why is there no water on that road? There is no way on earth that you can tell me unless you built a high bridge enough to go across that water. So they built their land up and we can't build ours up because we are residents there. Or you put the industrial part. Of course, you're going to put the industrial part ahead of the community because you want to run us out. But we're not going anywhere. So what are you going to do as the Grand Strand Water and Sewer to protect the community so that we're not in a flood every time it rains? I am so frustrated with the fact that we have to keep going through this. And like I said, my mom is 72 years old. She should be living her best life, and have to be waking up in the middle of the night to wonder if you're going to have to come out and get on the back of a truck to be escorted out of your yard, out of your lane. That makes no sense to me. And you keep telling me to write a letter, be in these meetings. Well, you in the meeting as the county councilman. What are you saying? What are you doing? But if it's not affecting your household, then you're not speaking for the people that it's affecting. And that's my issue. We're supposed to go through the proper channels, and we've been doing that. And we still get no results. Bucksport should be on the list for first of everything right now. And the reason we should is because we've been left out for so long. And we are the ones that's continuing to go through the stuff, and we get no assistance. We're the last ones to get everything. And then they still don't come through or follow through with what they're saying. So I have an issue with the whole process. We need to know what we have to do today. And if it takes me, Ronnie, and my brothers and sisters or whoever to do it, then we're willing to work. But to tell us to meet at the meetings, okay, when we get to the meeting, what you gonna do?
Well, that's all right. I think that's a part of, and Kim's, you're absolutely right, Kim. I think everything you're saying is on point. I think that maybe that's a part of the guidance on how to navigate this entire thing to get results is, you know, coming up with a plan when you go to the meeting and making sure that you're on the docket so that you can speak and say exactly what you've even said here today. And I want to just pivot a little bit because I want April to share the photos that I've posted here. You know, someone made the comment that flooding in Horry County is a serious problem and there's no solution. And, you know, Bucksport, of course, is impacted in a tremendous way. But here's some other photos as well to show you that, you know, this problem is indeed an Horry County problem. And so, April, can you tell us a little bit about what you see here?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I hear the exact same thing that you all are saying in every portion of our county that's flooding. They all feel forgotten. They all feel frustrated. They all feel like they're just getting pushed out their houses, that nobody cares. I literally got a message tonight from someone that's telling me that they're homeless and they have no place to stay. Yesterday, I got a message from someone telling me that they're staying in their flooded house because they have 2 pets and they don't want to be separated from their pets and they have no place to stay. The day before that, I had a family that had their picture taken with Senator Lindsey Graham in 2018, who promised them a buyout that have yet to receive a buyout. Nobody in Horry County, except excluding the city of Conway, which was a totally separate grant that was from Hurricane Matthew, nobody in Horry County has gotten a buyout. Nobody. So we're looking at pictures of different sections of our county right now. Pitch Landing, Lee's Landing, Ed Smith Avenue, Folly Road, Star Creek, West Oak, Savannah Bluff. I could keep going. I can keep going. I've been to all of these communities, including Bucksport. You're not alone. There's so many families that are saying the exact same thing that you were saying. Mm-hmm. And together, we have to work together. So I just want you to understand, you know, this isn't, Bucksport's not alone, is what I'm saying. And the same issues that you're facing in your community is happening throughout the county. We have families that flood because of beavers. We have families that have flooded because the infrastructure hasn't been maintained. We have families that flood because somebody threw a wake, whether they threw a wake on their boat, joyriding, or whether they threw a wake on their 4-wheel truck. And we all know 1 inch can make all the difference in the world between a couple of $1,000 and $20,000 to $30,000. We've provided recommendations like we need an ordinance that says you can't drive through these communities. We begged the county to provide access points to keep people from being nosy and curious and driving through these communities. We tried to work with DNR and the Coast Guard to put no wake zones in these communities. We're doing everything we can possibly can based on what the community has told us they need. So I know it's frustrating because I'm telling you, go to meetings. I'm telling you to make these phone calls. I'm doing that because, quite frankly, I'm the only one there. I'm speaking on behalf of this entire community based on that you've given me. Right. And I'm literally the only person there. They're sick of hearing from me. So, and I'm sick of hearing myself.
Well, that's good. If they're sick of hearing from you, that's good.
Well, every time there's a flood
they need more voices.
I'm on the news. Every time somebody from the reporter wants to know about flooding, I'm trying to get families in front of those cameras telling their stories and telling their experiences because I don't want to be out front. I really don't. Right. This isn't about me.
I don't either.
It's about a healthy community. This is about caring about my neighbors. This is about, I know what it's like. So that's all I can say. That's really, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions. What I'm saying is we need a plan that defines the solutions, and we need the community to come together and help us. Because
I'm gonna pull Ronnie left the stream, but he wanted to say something, and then we'll go to some comments. And you know, we promised our guests this would be an hour, but like Brother Edward says, when it gets deep, we have to just keep talking, and we don't have a time limit. But I think that, you know, it's good that this is an outlet for you all to express what you're feeling, and to let people know what they need to do, but also, you know, what you're actually. The title was, you know, living underwater, and that's what everyone is doing. Ronnie, what was it that you wanted to say?
Okay, so I had a question for I guess I got a couple questions. So those places that April named that were flooding also, when did those places start flooding like Bucksport?
I want to say the first major flood that we saw that started to impact areas in addition to Bucksport was 2015, and that was Tropical Storm Joaquin. The next flood was Hurricane Matthew. I know someone made a comment that these areas are on the river. Actually, they're not. On Pitch Landing, a subdivision, right when you pull on Pitch Landing Road, a subdivision on the left-hand side that's about a mile away from the river is flooding. So these areas are not all right on the waterway or, you know, on rivers. You know, quite frankly, folks that are elevated and high and dry are not part of, you know, our first priority list. Our priorities list is when you have water in your home, you're going to come first.
Okay, so my thing is, so what you're saying is that those communities that you named started flooding with Bucksport. So you have something called friendly fire. Some things you're not going to be able to stop in order to do something over here that you're trying to do. It's not meaning to get to certain people. It's just that they can't stop it from going to certain people. The main people or the main place that they're trying to flood is Bucksport. And at the end of the day, what you have to ask yourself is, why would anybody build and start building a marine center, start building new roads, put a substation, and start building up houses on a river that's flooding? At the end of the day,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but every single time we have a planning commission meeting, there is a project that I have grave concerns about because it's going to increase flood risk. If you look at the planning commission's agenda for this Thursday, which meets at 5:30, they have lots in the 100-year flood zone. They are filling in wetlands to provide connectivity to build the homes. So Bucksport's not the only area where they're building in a flood zone, or where they're impacting wetlands, or they're putting future families in high-risk areas that are going to increase flood risk. It's happening throughout the entire county.
Kevin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, let me add this. I took the liberty to look up the highest crest and for our area. On 9/26/2018, we had a flood crest of 25 feet. That was Florence. On 10/16, we had Matthew, which was 22.6. On the third highest was on January 2016, which was 19.6. The next one was on 4/2003 of 19.5. And then the fifth was on 11/18, and that was 19.09. Now, what I'm trying to make a point of is, in 2003, we had a flood level that was higher than 2018, yet we didn't flood.
Hello.
So what happened between 2003 and 2016 that made us flood, when in 2003 the water was higher than it was in 2016?
Exactly.
So see, these are all questions that need to be answered. And as for go back a little bit about the ditches. I want to make a point. The resident at 1270 Bucksport Road is going to be my first landmark. The other one is 1200 on Old Bellamy Drive. That's Miss Trussell McCall house and Joan Giles's home. Those two homes flooded in Florence and Matthew. Now here's what happened after that. The ditch was open after those two floods. Behind their homes and beside their homes, it was the only ditch working on this particular flood. And guess what? Those two homes did not flood. You know why? The water was going out in front of their homes into the marsh area. So all the water, as it rose, that one drain on Mishoe Road that was open carried all that water out, and their homes did not flood this time. Tell me a ditch does not work. Okay, so
in some cases,
these are all things that have to be taken into consideration. Yes, we need to meet. Yes, we need to come up with a plan. It's not a one size fit all. Are we just going to protest and something's going to happen? Let me tell you something. It's going to take all the tools in the toolbox to get something done. And one tool that we haven't mentioned is we went through some very difficult times to get to the ballot box in November. COVID was alive and well, and I saw the ballot box being stuffed by people who wanted their vote to count. We don't just tackle these folks with just protests and meetings. If they can't help us with our situation, then we show up again at the ballot box and we make it count there as well. So there's a number of things we have started in Bucksport, and we have a history that our churches have been our first line of defense in any change in our community. And we've called on the pastors to unite, and we will humble ourselves and we pray. That's number one. Number two, we're going to have to devise a plan. I have taken the liberty to do things a little bit different. We're recording all the flow of water. We have video, such as the ones you used tonight, April. But we have invested in a high flying drone to monitor this water coming in and going out. We didn't just do what we've done in the past. We're not following the insanity of doing the same thing in the same way, expecting a different result. We're bringing forth our body of evidence, habeas corpus this time. So we're taking all the information to them. We're showing them the flow of water. We're showing them that the ditches aren't working. We've taken the photos, and like I said, we've contacted at least 3 outside sources, including a professor from CCU that has written some commentary on our area. But that's the reason why we have to come to the meeting.
Hold on, Kevin. Hold on. There's a lot of feedback coming from somewhere. If you all have other devices near your computer or phone, you'll want to mute those devices or so that there's only one audio feed. Okay, let's try it again.
But with that being said, we have to start somewhere, and we have to educate the community on what's going on. April's organization is a excellent partner and source to join in the efforts, and we're right. This thing has to live on beyond just the emotional moment that we're going through. We're persistent and consistent. But I want to end with this. I want to read this right quick from Martin Niemöller. If no one knows him, Niemöller was a sympathizer when the Jews was going through the extermination by the Germans. He himself was a German. But listen to what he said. He said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came from me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Listen, those that aren't flooded, listen, it's our turn. Those of us that are going through this, it's our turn. Then what happens when it's your turn? We must unite together, a common effort to do something about this. And if in the end you can prove to us that nothing else can be done except we move out of the flood areas, then let's get to that bridge cross that bridge when we get to it. But Bucksport is a resilient community. We're 4, 5, and 6 generation. We're bounded by more than brick and mortar. We're bounded by family, blood, and just a commitment to our community. So it's hard for us to even fathom the word buyout before we consider the word fight.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well, I just want to let all of you know the one thing that you can be assured of, that the World Community Magazine Live will always can serve as a platform for your issues. That's if there's any further extent that we can go to make sure there's a partnership to get a good and positive outcome for the flooding issue in Bucksport, we're there. Okay, we'll be there for you, and you're welcome. Just give us
Thank you very much.
All right, inform us.
All right. Well,
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Edward.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that this was a very powerful conversation. It was, I think it transcended into something else other than just telling the story. It also showed the emotion behind what is happening and the mental and emotional impact of something that is physically happening to people. And we have to thank Kevin Mishoe and April Thomas with Horry County Rising for their tireless work to make sure that people understand what's going on, and they always know that they always have a platform through them to get their messages out. And I have to thank Ronnie Austin and Kimberly Austin Wood for such a tremendous testimonial, the power in your questions and your thoughts, just putting it out there and being a voice for people who really want to say something, but for whatever reason, they're afraid to.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid when it's your life that's on the line. Okay.
Absolutely.
Ask the questions. If you don't want to speak in a forum like this, we're working on a call-in option because some people just don't want to be seen. We're working on a call-in option when we have conversations like this, because the more you come together, the louder you roar. And I want you all to understand that just because we don't live in Bucksport, we feel it, because we're only minutes away. And we have family in all of these areas, and it's just perplexing to, I know, all of us, that this is happening over and over and over again. And, we all demand solutions, not just the guests that you see on the screen today, but we all demand solutions. So,
April,
Curtis Platt says, great meeting and dialogue, Horry County Veterans Coalition, Community Development. There's been a number of different people watching tonight. Kim, you were getting tears from people in your community. Your community was watching tonight. So, thank you all for being a part of this and for coming together to just let everyone know how you feel, but also to let everyone know that the needle needs to be moved. There needs to be some solutions, not only just on the table, but they need to be implemented so that we can fix this problem and Bucksport can, retain its place in its historic community. So, April, Kevin, do you all have any last words? And I know Brother Edward has the last word. Ronnie, I'm even going to extend it to you and Kim, if y'all have any last words before we depart.
I think I'm good. I just wanted to let April know that I wasn't like trying to attack her or nothing, but it's just really frustrating to see this stuff going on and people just kind of act like it's normal or it's not right. It's just not right. It's not right at all, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I didn't feel attacked at all. I didn't take any of that personally, and because I'm good with what I'm doing, right? I feel really good about what I'm doing. I love having these conversations. I love meeting families with where they're at and listening to, what they're dealing with. And, really my last words are, this is a grief that's really hard to describe. Losing your house or having floodwaters in your house or seeing somebody you love and care about go through that. And, I just really hope that by bringing us together tonight that we've inspired folks that aren't going through that right now to take action and join us. And I just want to say that the last couple of days have been really, really hard for me. Just seeing how many people were affected in this recent event. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't say that that's where my heart is right now. My heart is with those families that still have water in their houses. They're just starting the process of, the tasks that they're going to have to face over the next couple of months, which is really grueling and exhausting and painful. And that's where my heart is right now. So if I didn't do a good job kind of articulating, my sincere apologies, because it's just been a really tough few days. So,
Kevin.
Well, Kimberly and Ronnie epitomizes the energy that I've seen in this community lately. We've seen an outcry and a support group unlike we've ever seen before. And the thing is, we need to continue this. This is how we make the changes that we want to see. And so I encourage everyone to come out. The Association of the Betterment of Bucksport will have its first meeting on March 9th at 6:30. We need the community. This is a community problem, and it's going to take a community solution. So we want you there. For those that are long distance, we're gonna live stream all of our meetings and make sure that you can get that information. So just follow us on Facebook, and let's stand together. And thank you so much for being a part of this program tonight. Thank you also, April. You're a blessing.
Yeah. And Brother Edward.
Yes, ma'am. Look, nobody has to worry about the inadequate articulation. Okay, everything has such strength to it that if you felt that your articulation was not effective, you can just squash that. I think it was very strong. It needs to be reckoned with. And again, you can always use our platform to articulate more. But having said that, I just want to say, April and everybody else, that some people couldn't get through because of technical difficulties in their home, but they sent me a text. One text came and who said that he had an issue with trying to chat with us. So this is Reverend Jerry Falk. He said that as a former pastor in Bucksport, there never was flooding in Bucksport of this magnitude. No homes were flooded. To Ronnie, Kim, and Kevin, we salute you and will help in any way we can. Your ancestors are smiling. Thanks, April, for your input. Reverend and Mrs. General Falk, Reverend and Mrs. Falk. They wanted to send that message. They're having some difficulties on chatting and trying to get it on the comment line. So I thought it was worth to read it off. Lastly, I'd like to say to all about this, our viewers, and those of you who are not impacted by this flooding, and I know you're offering sympathy as much as possible, but because of this climate change, I don't know if you believe in this or not, but this flooding could happen not just in Bucksport in the very, very near future. This could be in some of Horry County that has never happened before.
We're seeing some. Yep, we're seeing that.
Yep. But you never, and you think you're on high ground, and the next thing you know, you're being flooded. Okay, so we have to be careful, and we have to be vigilant right now, like Brother Ronnie Austin said, we have to go and be proactive. We need to pack these council meetings. Okay, it's effective. You need to pack them, and like the April T say from Horry County Rising, they're just sick of seeing your face. That's great. Okay.
That means he's working. That's right. Yeah. He's working.
Right. Okay. And we should do, and we should really be vigilant about these things. Again, you can use the World Community Magazine live as a platform to further articulate this issue at Bucksport because it's critical. Okay. Again, that could be all over Horry County. We could be next. Okay.
Easily.
We could be next. So, April, I'll let you have the last one.
Well, I can't say anything else other than we're just been blessed tonight. This has been empowering, and we certainly wish the Bucksport community Godspeed with everything, and we hope that you all get the relief that you so deserve. And again, I can't say enough about Kevin and my twin April T. I'm April G. She's April T. And so thank you so much. And Ronnie and Kimberly, keep your head up, keep fighting for Bucksport. Bucksport strong. Bucksport strong. Bucksport strong. So and once again, just like Brother Edward said, if any of you need this platform or the Network Live as a platform to have any conversations or create any forums or whatever, just let us know. We will facilitate for you, no problem. And be a part of the conversations as much as possible. And if there's any information that needs to be shared, just get it to us, and we'll get it out through our social media platforms as well as the magazine. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to our wonderful viewers who stuck with us through almost 2 hours of programming. That is awesome. That means this is very important. It's a very important, very powerful conversation. And anytime you guys want to come back, just let us know. And I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, next week, April, and to all our viewers, that we're going to be talking about from the United Negro College Fund. That's another very important issue. Okay, and we'll have we'll have a representative from the regional United Negro College Fund. Okay, and Roswell McGinnis, right, and also none other than our icon right here in Conway, Marjorie McIver, okay, and they're teaming together among a lot of us, trying to trying to make a record-breaking contribution to the United Negro College Fund this year. If you've probably been reading over the past month or 2 or 3 months, donations, some that have never been done before, I mean, in the millions of dollars, have been now contributing to the HBCUs, and some that I've never seen come before. So we got to keep this up. We got to we got to do our share right here in this region and over in the PD area. Understand? So join us next week. We'll have a representative from the United Negro College Fund, and again, we're attempting to get Reverend Calvary. I'm sorry. My apologies. My apologies. But anyway, we'll have an additional guest on the show. Okay, but it's going to be powerful. Okay, so please join us at 7 p.m. next week, same time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.